the Lambda exhaust system out of this, still running the white fuel tune resistor, which caused no end of problems. So anyway, we go into it now. I've been running the vehicle, but you can see the information. We'll hope you can. That it says water temperature 72, fuel temperature 46, throttle pot 4%, RPM 0, battery 11.6 volts, ECU OK. Talks about your throttle your throttle pot indicator, which we'll do a little bit more on that later. Fuel pump on or off. You can actually turn the fuel pump on now if I wish to do so, and prime the system up by using this unit. And then it says Lambdas A and B, which are disconnected. I've taken them out, and I can do a little bit of a clip on that if so required, about where you access them, how you remove the pots, and how you actually disable it from the unit. Idle on and your pots. That's all your airflow meters, obviously reading 0 at the moment. And it says, if you can see the tune, limp, no cats. When I flash the car up and it recognises that I have the red tune resistor, which is the 180 ohms one, that disappears, and I'll show you that as we run through it. Tells you the position of the stepper motor. Again, engine's not running, it's saying 0 at the moment. All depends on what vehicle you're running, but generally it runs at about 109, that 0 digit there, or out to about 150, 160. It all depends on what type of car, but you've got the great ability with this particular unit to actually extend or retract the stepper motor, as they call it here, to adjust it and reset it. That tells you all about really good information here, whether you're, depending on whether you're running a manual or an auto, whether your gearbox signals to your ECU are working fine, and it's great on this one. They are working fine. It tells me that I'm stopped, tells me that I'm in park or neutral, AC, air conditioning off, idle on, and position. Quite important, because what can happen is sometimes, and not often talked about on the internet, is that your idle in the ECU has a little trigger in there, and it either turns it on or off. And if some of your information from your gearbox isn't quite correct, or you've got a faulty sender on your gearbox, it sometimes leaves you in idle off even though you are stopped, and that can cause high revving, or it can cause the engine to stall when you put it into gear and things like that. Okay, so what I'll do next is I'll just start the car, and then we'll run through it again with the values running. So I've pushed a little flashy start button here. So there she goes, that's her up and running, 3.9 V8, and you can see from it here, once she settles down a little bit, she idles absolutely perfect. That wasn't the case when I got the car, but like I say, so what we can do now is just run through the unit again. So this is live. If you see the RPM, she's ticking over nicer, about 750. Throttle pot on 4%, fuel temperature 43, and the water temperature there. Go through it again. Fuel pump on, you can see a little indication there letting me know the fuel pump's running. The Lambdas, it's quite strange, you get a reading from it, but the unit will actually be ignoring it, the ECU, because of the tune resistor that I've now put in to bypass all that. Idle on, and again your throttle pot 4%, and I'll talk a little bit about what all this means later on. Airflow meter, really nice to see that good voltage is 1.47 in and out, and the mapping is moving, meaning that it's actually doing something. And you'll see there the important thing, I don't know if it'll pick it up, but it's got tune, red, plus cats. Well, this car was originally fitted with a cats, and I've got rid of them, like I say, but what I've done is made a tune resistor and put it in and bypass the white one. So in effect what's happening now is that the ECU is ignoring all the catalytic converter stuff, which can often run to really bad and rough idling problems if you've got dodgy sensors on your dodgy Lambda sensors. Stepper motor position there, you see this one's running at 150. What I did is when I put the new stepper motor in is I extended it and adjusted it all just to get the car running over, and as you can see now she ticks over absolutely perfect, no hunting, no stalling, no nothing. You can't do that without using one of these machines or something simpler to adjust it. So what tends to happen sometimes is people put new stepper motors in, get really frustrated thinking that it's not working, but the ECU takes some time to really learn the new values. And as a matter of fact, I actually think it's a bit of a joke. Sometimes they never relearn the new values, and you just have to end up resetting it. Otherwise you just end up with all sorts of problems, frustrations, and you think that there's actual other problems on your engine when actually it's not. It's just that the stepper motor hasn't been reset properly, and you can quite clearly see this unit now is ticking over an absolute dream. One of the other things as well, as we run through this, I'll talk about setting what they call the base idle adjustment, which is about 550. Again, if that's not set properly, then you struggle a little bit on your idle as well. So let's flick through this unit. Here's a bit I was telling you before, some really important information on this. It's telling me that it's stopped, that my auto box is in park, my AC is off, and that my idle is on, and that my it's got position there. That's position of your stepper motor is what on. So good information. Now what will happen is I'm just going to rev the engine a little bit, and you'll see the idle mode will jump from off because it's recognizing a move on the throttle potentiometer, and there it goes. So it's come out of idle mode now, so I know that my throttle potentiometer is locking on nice and crisp. And then what I'll do is you'll see the revs, and then once I drop the revs off, what'll happen then is the ECU will think about it and it'll jump back into idle mode. So it's telling me that my idle mode is actually working. One of the things with it is your throttle pot. Generally there's all sorts of information on there, but generally it should sit around 4% if it's working. Sometimes you do get problems with these and you've got to replace the units or adjust them, but you'll watch now when I sort of move the throttle, that percentage will change. See that? And it changes instantly, so it's letting me know that my throttle pot's working well as my revs go up. Likewise, if I flick through it as well, it tells you the voltage of the throttle pots. Maybe I went through that a little bit too quick, but it's telling me that the volts is about just around 0.2 of a volt, which is good. And again, inside the actual booklet here, the ECUMATE gives you all the values of what it should be running through, which is really useful. Lambers, ignore that idle on because it's ignoring it. Here we go again. Here's the airflow meter. Now what can generally happen is, and when you've got your cats on, I've adjusted the voltage on the airflow meter to non-cat car because I'm running it with no cats in it, with a red tune resistor, which you see here. Initially when I went into adjusted voltage, and I can do a little exercise on that to show you how it works, mine was up at 3.5 volts, and no wonder my car was running rich. It stunk of petrol on tick over. Now there's hardly any smell to it whatsoever, and that was because it needed adjusting with it. Stepper motor position sat at 180, generally settles down around about that, but as you can see the engine's ticking over nicely. And I'll just jump out and run you around through into the engine bay. So those are 3.9, and that's how it should be running. That's how it should be ticking over, set exactly around the 750 mark, not hunting, not jiggering about, and this, that and the other. So the point being is, when these cars are running and they're maintained properly, they're a great engine. I swear by the Rover V8s, had quite a few of them. A lot of people get frustrated with them, and it's only generally some basic little faults on it. I'm going to do a little bit of some separate video clips, otherwise this clip will just be too long, covering how to set the voltage on the ECU, the airflow meter, sorry. Also your throttle potentiometer, talk about some of your other gauges. That's your fuel one, temperature one, run through the importance of your idle flow meter, what it does, and how we set the base idle, which is this one here. Also as well about the importance of cleaning all these tubes and making everything sure is clean. Just a little quirky thing, what I've done with mine is, I'm not really a big one on cruise control, so what I've done is I've left the unit in, but what I've done is connected a vacuum pipe, the blue pipe here, and fed it through into the truck where it normally goes. And I've actually made my own unit here, very simple, using a syringe for adjusting the engine revs, and I use this for off-road. Actually, it's absolutely fantastic. All the Series 3 Land Rovers that I ever owned, and the latter part of the stage ones all had the ability to adjust your idle revs off-road, so you could just set it, take your foot off, and a lot of the modern Land Rovers have sort of lost that art, which is a shame. This is really simple. All I do is I just pull up on the thing, cause a vacuum on it, and then what it does then, it just increases my engine revs, and the control I've got on it is absolutely amazing. You can see there as I'm pulling up on it, and it's just increasing my engine revs. So basically what I can do is set my engine revs to a nice speed, to whatever I want. You know, I've got that set just over 1,000, leave it off like that, and when you're off-road, just let the car do the work, and then you're not bouncing up and down on the throttle. So a little mechanism. The other good thing about it as well is you can actually use it just for lifting your engine revs up and things like that inside the car when you're doing tests with your ECU, so it's quite handy. And then that's it up to 2,000 revs, and when I want the revs off, I just push that back in, drops back down, and away she goes, and I just have that sat next to me seat. But anyway, so you see there now what's going to happen now is the ECU will say, yeah, what's happening here, drop her back down, idle control valve will start adjusting itself, position off, and then the vehicle settles nicely on tick over revs, and that's how it should be. Okay, I'll sign out for now, and then I'll do some more detailed video instructions, just going into each individual part and talking a little bit about those parts, just so you can have a bit more detail on it. This is just an overview. What I'll do is I'll just do the run on it, just for the fault code again. Now the ECU is running, so it's in there. Fault code display connecting, no ECU faults have been reported. Great, that's what we want to see. The machine's running nice, so stop that. Do you want to clear the faults? No, because there is no faults, and away you go. One of the other things you can use this for as well is, and you'll see, I just do a quick test. It's quite difficult to video yourself and hold the ECU unit and change gears and things like that, but I'll give it a go. So what I'm going to try and do now is demonstrate the by putting that unit here, what it does when you flick through your gearbox controls. So what I'm going to do here, if you just excuse me a minute with it, just try and hold that there. I should get my young lad to give me a lift. Let's give it a go. So I've got my foot on the brake. What I'm going to do is go from parking to reverse, and just watch so it's got road still stopped, and then that's going to go into D. See that? So now it knows it's into D. Idle's still on because I'm still stopped, so the idle cuts in under 3 miles per hour or kilometers per hour. But if you notice my car and the idle thing of it's absolutely perfect, not wanting to stall. It's adjusted the revs in reverse, foot on the brake, torque converter's working on the gearbox, but the engine isn't stalling. When I take it out of gear, if you watch now, it'll go into park and neutral, engine revs go up, drop back down, back into the idle. So it's telling you a lot of good information. What you can do when you get on the road, and I'll do a clip of this on the road, driving along, it tells you about your speed, your road speed, what your gearbox is, you know, if you're in fast mode, slow mode, or stopped. And it also tells you whether you're in idle on or off, so it gives you a good indication that all the information leading into the ECU is working correctly with it. So I'll sign out now. I hope you've found this little bit of an overview useful. I've been on YouTube myself, and there's not much on the ECU, mate, which does surprise me because it's a brilliant piece of equipment, and for the money, I think it's about £150, which is about 300 New Zealand dollars. I think it's worth every penny, because it allows you to do so much with your machine, and if you have a little bit of a basic understanding about engineering and electronics, can save you an absolute fortune at garages. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you give us some feedback, or if you sort of flick me a thing and say, can you show us how to do this, that and the other to get the engine running sweet, I'll give it a go. There's not much I don't know about these Land Rovers, having used them for many years with it. Thanks for that. Bye.